Rocky Mountain Race Week 1.0 2021 is literally less than a week away. That being said, it's crunch time. John has been working hard to get El Toro ready. He had to wire all new headlights, taillights, blinkers, all that stuff in. That car was never meant to be legal for the road previously. We built it in 9 days, don't forget, so that wasn't really a high priority when we were just trying to go 8 seconds. So that one's ready to go. The trailer's ready. We just got to pack the trailer. We got our rugged radios installed in the car. Andy's GTO, pretty much the same tune. Everything's ready to roll. I think both those things are ready to kick some butt. The Nova, on the other hand, not so much. So we took this thing apart to put some head gaskets on it a couple weeks ago and uncovered some major issues with the cylinder heads. Basically what had happened was we had some stuff come apart. We had some 5-year-old valve springs or 4-year-old valve springs in it, and they were starting to break apart. So we got all of that replaced. We sent them off to HED in North Carolina. They do a lot of like Justin Martin's race motors, the orange car right there on the wall. Tooth jerker, all that stuff. Pete at HED is awesome. He's really innovative. He moves things up to the next level. In fact, he did some major upgrades on these heads, but more importantly, we'll have valve seats that will seal valves now, and valve springs that are holding together. And I think we'll really be able to make some power, though we probably won't be able to really use it on Race Week because we can only go 750, and for that car, we got to turn the power way down to go 750, which is fine with me because hopefully that makes it last through Race Week without a whole lot of breakages. But we have a lot of work to do. We leave in 6 days. We don't have cylinder heads on the motor yet. We don't have it running. And I'm gonna build a whole new cold side to show off our new throttle body. And I still need to get that built and powder coated, and the stars have to align. I'm just hoping that the push rods that we had before will still work because it has a custom Manton push rod. Both sides are custom because we have the Jessel rockers on it. And let's hope the stars align. So let's go see what John's working on. Man, John, what day is it?
The 4th.
Friday.
6 days?
We leave on the 10th. Which looks fine. I mean, we're missing a door panel. But if you come up here, oh, there's a pile of parts. We haven't ran this thing since March, I think, at Texas 2K. It's even looking more sad than the engine bay. We're just waiting on UPS to show up at that door over there and hopefully have our heads and they're not hanging out of a cardboard box like all destroyed, dude. Well. And then the stars have to align that these push rods, you see we have these custom Manton push rods. They're extra thick and they have special tips on the end for the Jessel rockers that we run. They're a custom length. The world has to go completely in our favor for this to happen. Otherwise, we're going to be assembling this in the trailer on the way to Great Bend. Sorry, John. Mobile mechanic. But I think we might be all right. We'll see. So I think we're going to go ahead and start cleaning up the engine bay a little bit. We never did paint like where we put the Maven mounts over there. So maybe do some touch up because I can't have this thing looking too shabby when we're racing it. And then hopefully the heads come in and we'll be able to get them on and get this thing fired up today, if we're lucky. Okay guys, so a lot of people ask us on our Gen 5 motor, how are you cramming that much boost into a 4-bolt block? And the answer is this comes from AES, who originally built the motor. I think they did a fantastic job of speccing between gasket combo, head stud style, and then they've always used this copper spray gasket. Now this is highly controversial, but it freaking works. We've been cramming 42 to 45 pounds of boost through this thing forever. Never had one head gasket issue until we melted that wastegate line, which, you know, there was really no compromise head gasket. Just pushed a little bit of water, so it probably just lifted a little bit and set it back down. But this stuff just works. I've talked about it before. People get all upset and they say it's actually not wrong. Is it really wrong if it works? Because it seems like it is a really good combination, and I would hate to learn the hard way that not having it would actually cause some issues. So for now, I'm gonna keep using it. It obviously doesn't not work. It doesn't cause any problems. So if something's working really well, don't change it. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray these with this, let them dry. And then once that's done, we can clean up the head surface and then get the heads put back on it. Okay, now that I look like the copper colored Tin Man, you just spray these on evenly, but not like you don't need to drench it. Just basically you're going to cover up any of the color and make it all copper, both sides. And then what you want to do is let it dry so that the solvent evaporates before you go to put them on the vehicle. So we'll let them hang here on the garage door from some merchandising hooks, and then we'll get them tossed on the car. Okay, so it is, what time is it, Andy? 11 o'clock. Heads are finally here. Surface is all prepped, so we're gonna go ahead and get these things out of the box, packaged up, and ready to roll. Dennis, you're looking like you worked up a sweat.
Brother, wrestling a bear, man.
So these head studs go all the way to 115 foot-pounds. One of the advantages of a Gen 5 motor is that it has M12, which is basically half-inch head studs. The disadvantage is that it wears a guy out when you're trying to torque the head studs. So we're just going through the rounds and getting them torqued right now. And then we're gonna check push rod length, because that's obviously a worry, and then go from there. Unfortunately, you guys won't be able to do this at home, but we were missing one washer. It got stuck in the head and we sent it out, and luckily Dennis knows how to run a lathe, so nothing like a $150,000 lathe to turn out a washer for your car. So we're back in business. We didn't think we would be able to get it running today, but ready to toss the second head on. Nice copper spray action on there, and we'll be hopefully setting valves soon. All right, so Dennis is running through the valves. We run these Jessel steel Mohawk style rockers, because the original time I put this together with stock rockers, the canted valves and the geometry of these LT motors makes it really tough on valve tips. So we're just setting the lifter preload right now, and then we should be able to put a set of motion valve covers on it, get the intake on it, and start getting everything ready to fire up. So we're getting close. Luckily we didn't have to end up putting a different length push rod in it, because that would have taken 3 to 4 days, so that would have been really bad. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we were going together and almost back together and almost done. Last intake bolt we tried to tighten stripped out. We actually seemed a little goofy one time when we put it together, and we just went it and took it back apart. Probably 2 more times after that. So it's just time to pay Paul. Or Peter, I don't remember which one it is, but so now we're gonna take it off and helicoil it, since we're in a nice air-conditioned shop rather than on the side of the interstate on Raceweek. Dennis made that optimistic point here. This is a silver lining, if there is one. So at least we got the tools and air conditioning and maybe some light even, not too much, but so. So we're gonna go ahead and put these new clear anodized Motion Raceworks Gen 5 valve covers on this sucker. That'll be real nice, don't you think, John?
Absolutely.
Give it a good little muscle car engine bay feel. These weren't out the last time I put this motor back together, so at least we're finally sporting our own goods. All right, guys, so we are back. I had to go pick up a helicoil set. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the helicoil, but some aren't. So basically the premise is, this is our bad thread. You can kind of see how the threads are torn up in there. We're gonna drill that out, and then you tap it with this tap that comes with the helicoil kit, which is basically gonna be the base threads, to then shrink it back down, and then there's this threaded insert. I can't get a good video of it. So then basically there's this little threaded insert that screws into there. So because the small threads are gone, we're making big threads to then put this in to make it up to be a small threads again. And then you tap this little tab out and that locks it in place. This is a good fix and solution for any hole that's stripped out. I mean, a lot of aluminum blocks and different threaded holes, people will actually do this before they strip out the holes, because some people say that helicoils are actually very much stronger. You're using a steel wire, so steel threads instead of aluminum. So potentially less galling, a little bit stronger threads, and we do this with a lot of fixtures at Motion right off the get-go. So this is definitely a good fix, and it's going to work for us in this solution. And nice, every once in a while you get lucky, so this is right on top. It's easy to get to. Just got to be careful and drill in your depths and stuff. So I have it marked out with a Sharpie here, how deep I can go. So hopefully make this stupid proof, I guess. All right, guys, sorry for the poor camera holding abilities, but we are all set now. The hardest part, honestly, well, you want to make sure that the top of this is below the top of the bolt. Otherwise, you might have something for it to grab on and pull out of. And then you just take a little something that fits inside the hole and knock the little tab out at the end. That's a part some people forget to do. And then basically it's locked in there. So this is all good. It now has steel threads. We'll be able to tighten intake down. So I'll clean it out one more time, get some of these chippies out of here, and we'll be back to assembling the old Nova. This is something I actually knew this hole was a little gummed up a while ago, and I just kept using it, but I'm glad that we're doing this inside the shop, like I said before, rather than on the side of the road or at the track. If you stop by like a local O'Reilly's or something, they have a bunch of different sizes of these. If you think there's a problem bolt or something, they're cheap. I think they're like 20 bucks, 30 bucks. You can get, and they give you like probably 10 or 15 of the inserts, so you can use them more than one time, but a lot of times they'll take 2 or 3 inserts to get it, unless it's a perfectly flat hole. Just getting it started, sometimes you'll waste 1 or 2 until you get it just right. So make sure you get more than one when you do it. One thing I forgot to cover earlier, a lot of people say they want these valve covers, but they want them with coil mounts. We actually make all of our valve covers with this threaded provision here, whether it's an LS, LT, big block, well, not yet, big block's coming, small block Ford, and then anything else we'll end up doing. And it allows you to not have these ugly bungs all over your valve cover in the event that you want to run them clean, but you can add them on later, or you can add them on now and take them off later and not have ugly threaded holes all up and down your valve cover. So really cool thing. Gives you the ability to change your mind now or in the future and not have to pay twice or buy 2 different sets of valve covers. Last set of valve covers you'll ever buy. All right, guys, so I got the car pushed over to the fab shop. It's just easier to use the bandsaw and everything over here. So now we're gonna start connecting pipes. It's really gonna be pretty simple. I was gonna use our new quick seal connectors, but we don't quite have them done yet, so we'll just do silicone couplers for now. The nice thing about this Y, I mean, everything's nice about it. The old Y used to stick out to here because it was essentially a throttle body. It had a regular silicone coupler end, and it had a V-band welded to it, which is about that far, and then the Y was about that far. So it was just tight turns, and it was less than optimal for space and for looks and everything. This thing is all anodized, done. You're welding to an actual V-band, so you're not welding to anything anodized. And then it's just really simple because you're going out from here to there. It's already pointing in the right direction. You have plenty of room to make the sweeping turn. So at this point, the only thing I'm really gonna focus on is making sure it's as close to the same as possible from side to side, because that's just more appealing. Even though the motors are slightly offset in these cars, I think we can make it look pretty darn good. So that's what I'm gonna get started on now. So what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna come off 45 off both sides, and then I took these 150-degree bends and cut them just for, I had them laying around, they were old bends. I think we're pretty close, so should be pretty simple. So do that, weld them up, and then weld some blow-off valves, and we'll be done. Okay, so I went ahead and welded the V-band to a 45 because I was pretty sure that's what I was gonna start with. And if you've seen the tech tip I talk about, and I'll just remind people because a lot of people are new to the channel, the less bends that you can have from your turbocharger to the intake, the more power you're gonna make. It's estimated that every 90-degree bend robs about 1 PSI of boost off of what your turbo is making. So the more you can make it straight, they say a 45 is like half. I'm sure there's a more specific calculation. So the concept of this style intercooler and the piping I'm doing is to create a smooth, long, gradual change so that you're not having big 90s all over the engine bay robbing horsepower. It has been proven time and time again by class cars and that's why you'll see a lot of cars run methanol, because then they avoid all the turns to the intercooler, avoid the turns in the intercooler and all robbing all that power. Plus some people like to tune on methanol, but there are some advantages to that. For a street car like this, having the intercooler on top capability without having all the issues with methanol is fantastic. So that's why we do it this way. Plus, I think it's looking pretty nice, really. So this is all done. So basically what I'm gonna do is mark this and then try and repeat it on the other side and then weld it up and take it over for powder coating because we are down to the wire, folks. All right, guys, both pipes are actually made. This one's cooling down. Don't mind that dent in the end. I dropped it on the ground after I welded it. Rough subject. But the next step is to bead roll the ends. So believe it or not, I know a lot of people think that silicone couplers just blow out. We've been running 40 plus pounds of boost on this car nearly all year. So they work. The biggest thing for a silicone coupler is to either have an edge or a good bead roll. And the coupler shouldn't be like a big bridge in there. You know, both pieces that you're connecting should be really close to each other. And then having this ledge here to have the clamps push up against, you won't have them blow off, they won't blow up. And I'll probably just jinx myself now that I said that, but all year we've been running them like that. So we're gonna redo that because like I said, the quick seal connectors just weren't quite done in manufacturing before we built these pipes and had to get ready to leave. So that's how we're gonna do it. And then I just use a, we made a little stand for this, but I think there's like 20 brands that make these now. You just load it in there, you spin it around with a little handle on the back and tighten it as you go. Just a simple piece. And if you make a cool little fixture like this, when tubes are like 180 and stuff like that, it'll allow you to bead roll it without running into the table. For this version and the last version of my car, we decided to use the JGS blow-off valves. I use 250 millimeters. Probably don't need 250 millimeters, but it definitely doesn't hurt. You can't over blow-off valve setup. And the nice thing about the JGS is that they have a piston design rather than a diaphragm, so you never have to worry about the diaphragm going bad. And our buddy Justin Martin's been running these blow-off valves on his LDR car for about 5-6 years. Never had them serviced, nothing. There's really nothing to go bad on. There are some O-rings inside, but you just physically can't wear them out. So really nice piece, inexpensive, and work well. So there you have it, guys. Pretty symmetrical, all things considered. Super easy with that Y to do things. The other thing I didn't mention earlier is the Y is what has the O-rings built into it. So when you're welding the V-bands, A, you won't lose them because they're a captured O-ring in the throttle body, and B, you don't have to worry about like warping that groove or anything like that. So sure makes things really easy to fabricate, and it looks pretty killer on the car. So routing wise, I think we're all done. I got to get these things over to powder coat so we can get the car back together and running, but we're making serious headway.